because it's easier to be unique in ourselves and try to be something we're not.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So let's count this down in 3, 2, 1.
Tomas, all the way out to East Los Angeles and Boyle Heights, the PlayMariachi podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. It's good to see you as always.
As always, it's great to be here in the house of 1,000 guitars. I feel like I died and went to heaven. I could just sit here and drool all day long, but I can't drool on the guitars. So I wanted to say thank you for having us out here. You know, we started this mariachi podcast, a friend of mine in Phoenix, and it was really just an attempt to keep our sanity. You know, in Phoenix, the mariachi scene is a little rough. You know, it's really difficult to kind of just like have a standard. And coming from Tucson, you've been to Tucson.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen the mariachi scene in Tucson the last 20, 30 years, and they don't joke around. They don't play. They have high standard. And so we started this podcast in an effort to just kind of talk about the culture, talk about the gig life, real stuff, real things that happen at gigs, you know, chambeando, getting paid, not getting paid, and all kinds of stuff. And people really like it. They think every comment I've gotten is like, "You guys are hilarious." I'm like, "Well, we're not trying to be funny. We're just being real. We're just talking about real shit." And people like it. And so I was like, the perfect thing to come out to LA, talk to you. You've been a longtime friend and mentor, and you've given me a lot of really good advice over the years. I think I've known you since I was about 16 years old.
Wow.
And I was just a little chongo kid playing, and I had no idea what my asshole from a guitar was, man. It was that bad. I was that green.
I'm glad you figured out the difference.
I'm glad I just barely last year started to get a clue. So yeah, we wanted to come out and talk to you about your work, your family's work, and the impact that it's had on not just, you know, guitars, but mariachi music in general. You do a lot of things from the mariachi guitar, which we'll get into, to community programs, to school education, lessons, and instruments for people from beginning student all the way to the highest level concert players. And you know, it's no joke. There's reasons why you see kids playing your stuff, and there's reasons why you see the biggest mariachi groups in the world, Vargas, Candelas, Soleneco, they play your guitars and your stuff. And that's unimpeachable. I don't care what anybody says, right? There's no wiggle room with authenticity and real stuff, you know?
Thank you.
And that's what I really wanted to come out and talk to you about. And so, really first, you know, one of the first topics I had in mind was your family history and your brand. You know, I know you have a long history from your grandfather, your great uncle, to your father, and can you just kind of walk us through how you guys got your start here, making guitars, and then getting involved in the mariachi community here?
Sure. Well, obviously, Grandpa and great uncle started in Torreon, orphaned. You know, they started to dabble in repairing and guitar making, and they decided to move to Juarez, and my grandpa's building started to pick up a little bit. My tío Candelas said, you know, we should open a shop. So they opened the first shop in Ciudad Juarez. And
rough area.
Yeah, back then it wasn't like it is now, but it was, you know, there were a lot of well-known artists that lived and frequented, you know.
So there was a big market for it there.
There was a big enough market, yeah, and I think it's important to know that they were orphans, so anything they could do to eat is what they were shooting for.
Necessity.
You know? It was absolute necessity.
Some of the best things come out of not privilege, but survival. Right? What can I do with these 2 hands and the 10 bills that I got to put food on my family's dinner table, right?
Oh yeah. Well, my grandpa, when he built his first guitar, he said he showed it to some friends, and they were like, "Oh, okay, that's great, but can you play it?" And you're like, "Yeah, well, we'll invite you to a party, and you know you and your brother show up and sing and play whatever." And I remember my grandpa telling me, "Pues la invitación estaba suave, pero más que nada nos daban de comer."
Mm-hmm. Right.
They would feed us, and he said, you know, every once in a while at a party they would say, "Well, what are you going to do with those things?" "Well, I want to sell them." But nobody would give me more than maybe 3 to 5 pesos for it, and that's what it would cost me to build it.
Right.
But when I thought about the food just the people that I would meet, it worked itself out.
Right. There's that X factor. It's not just the dollars and the cents, but it's being a person, being a human being, right? That's the whole point of the arts and the culture, right? Either you're in it, you know. I mean, I'm a little guilty of that. Just over Christmas time, I'm particularly worse. And it's some of the advice you gave me a couple of years ago before I got married was, you know, you have to bide your time. Like, is it all about the money, or is it about playing the gig, being in the culture? You have to find that happy balance, right? And so that's a big thing. It's like, my friends in Phoenix always give me crap because I'm always saying no to gigs. And this year I said, okay, I'll take more gigs even if it's not, you know, I don't care about the money.
Yeah.
I mean, the money is good to have, but, you know, I care more about time with my wife and at home and not missing out on those things. And I always remember you told me that. It's like, you got to be there, right? You can't just be one of those guys that takes every gig for $1. If it ain't got $100 bill on it, you're not interested, you know, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because you have to be amiable and you have to be like your grandfather. You have to have a business mind. Like, I need to eat, I need to make money, but I can't just snub an invitation, right? I got to go out there and get it, right?
Yeah, you know, it gets you out there, and being invited to the gig is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're struggling and you're just literally trying to just make enough to eat, and then you get invited to all these, you know, these different events, it's nice, right? And so here we are in a different world where we're blessed to where, you know, food and water and our basic needs are pretty much met. But when you're trying to inspire or be inspired by others, you want to be around like-minded people, and you try to find your niche. As a young man, you were doing that. I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's important to surround yourself with good people.
Good people.
Yeah.
So your grandfather and your great uncle, they pretty much get their start in Juarez.
You can say, yeah.
For the most part, they make their bones there, right?
Yeah.
And then did they come directly to Los Angeles after that?
They had a friend that used to repair televisions, and he was given, he moved right here on Saratoga, and he lived here with Licha, really nice lady who used to babysit me. And anyway, they invited them over, and they said, you should bring your guitars, because there's a guy down the street here that I repair his televisions, and he sells them, and he's showing interest in guitars. So when they came down to visit, they brought a little VW bus type deal, and that's the way my grandpa described it to me. And they brought a bunch of guitars. So they came here, they visited with them. The next day they drove several blocks, and the story goes as my grandpa told me, he's like, we pull up, and your tío Candelas walks in, and he talks to the gentleman there, and I could see him talking, his hands moving, and he walks back and he says, grab all the guitars.
They're all gone.
And he was just ecstatic, so he grabs all the guitars, and he takes them in, and when he takes the last batch, he's like, okay, now, hermano, grab those TVs. He's like, what? He said, grab the TVs. No, they got just grab
do
them.
what I say.
So he grabs the TVs, and he puts them in the car, and they're driving back, and he's like, what just happened? Because I mean, we could sell the TVs back at home.
That's true.
There were no TVs back.
Where they're from.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He's all, this man, hopefully he sells the guitars. And smart businessman, my tío Candelas. And so they went back home, and sure enough, he said, we sold all the TVs.
Had money.
And we had money, and we started building more guitars. And it wasn't long after this man started ordering more guitars from him.
Yeah, just one grapevine can kind of just set your whole path, right?
Yeah.
You just never know what it could be.
Oh yeah. So that's how we ended up in Boyle Heights, because they ended up coming back here and opening this shop. I used to tell everybody in 1948, but it was 1947, and I was told that about 5-7 years ago. I had a customer come in, and she said, you guys have been here a long time. We've been here since 1948. She goes, no, it was before that. And I go, no, it was 48. She goes, no, because your uncle made a guitar for me.
Oh, geez.
And it was 1947, and I took a picture of it, and I'll bring it to you. And I was like,
Oh shit!
So isn't that amazing? So she brings me this photo, and it says 19. I think it was like September of '47, and he's there carving away on the guitar.
Man.
Yeah.
So it's deep-rooted family history.
Yes.
And then it gets passed down to your dad.
So my dad grew up, running around the shop, goes to the army, gets out of the army, and he told me that he came to visit the shop, and he noticed that my tío was there at the time, and the shop was just bare. And he was older, and he was getting tired, and he felt this, like, and my dad was named after my great uncle, so my dad was Candelas the second, so he said that he just felt like he was going to stay and try to get things going, and he did. He was the new, the fresh legs to the business, and so he started in, I think it was like late 60s when he got out of the army, and he stayed here till he passed away. So yeah.
Just then you come along.
And I come along.
And you start, and yeah, that's the thing. I've seen some videos on YouTube. There's an interview with you and your dad, and back in, like, you were probably like in your early 20s.
Really? I didn't see that.
There's an interview out there where your dad is on camera, and they shoot you guys in the shop, in your guys' workstation, and they shoot you guys at the boxing gym.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like that, and it was like, oh man, okay, yeah, it's relatable. It's like, I used to box when I was a kid. I do jiu-jitsu now, and it's like, it's so funny how you see people, like you're saying, like-minded people, training and discipline and having people who guide them through life, and it just kind of trickles down to generation to generation. And that's pretty much been your family's brand. And that, for me, I scour the internet, and I scour searches and yard sales and auctions and all kinds of stuff. And I find a lot of remnants of your family's work. I find your great uncle, I've had 2 guitars made by him. I have 2 guitars made by your dad. Those are beasts. Those are animals. You know what I mean? You talk about inspiration. It's like when I'm having a shit day, I'll just go into my office and pull out that Brazilian rosewood that I got, or the flamenco that you restored for me, and I just sit there and play it. And then my dogs will come up into the office and they'll just pass out asleep, and I'm like, man, this is like magic. It's just magical. And then the mariachi guitar, So that's definitely one thing is your family, starts classical guitar, flamenco guitar. How did you guys get into the mariachi scene? And what's your kind of perception over the years of, mariachi guitar, vihuela, all that kind of stuff?
My grandfather played in the mariachi.
Oh, he did?
I'll show you some photos later, but I have photos from the 40s. He knew the guys from Vargas. He had his own, he played in a group in Juarez, in Torreon. There's a photo here of a group called Son Torreon, and my tío Candelas and my grandpa are there playing in Tresillo in 1932.
And this is your family blood.
It's in our blood, yeah.
There's no escape.
No.
Apples don't fall far from the tree, do they?
Well, the one thing true is that my grandpa went out and actually performed. Traje, todo, he performed a lot, and I didn't get to that point, but my mom always jokes around saying that when I was born, that they really thought I was the firstborn because I'm the oldest son, and my dad literally took me everywhere. When we had our shops in Mexico and these here, I was going back and forth at 5, 6, 7 years old.
Soaking it up.
So not realizing, just my dad and I always hanging out.
Yeah.
We were best friends. And so, I got to hang out when he was hanging out with El Rey and with Los Camperos and
the pillars of mariachi in the United States.
Yeah, and at home I'm listening to Libriesca and Vicente and all the mariachi, all the rancheras, all the trios, but yet we also had clients that were coming in like Pepe Romero,
Andres
Segovia, and we had that influence. And so when I started playing guitar, my dad said, "You're going to take classical guitar lessons," and so that was cool. And I liked it, but it was in like the late '80s when I told my dad, or my dad mentioned to me, "Hey, there's a mariachi festival in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go?" And it just happened to be my mom, my dad, and I. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So we went down there, and that was when the mass was still held at the little chapel, and there was just enough room for people to fit in there.
Oh yeah, we were right there on 22nd. Yeah, the little church, not the big cathedral, but the little church.
The original.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps when I think about that festival was
It's
just
a special place. I tell people now,
changed my life.
I'm so spoiled. And for viewers on YouTube and the podcast, I've said this before, coming from Tucson, we're all spoiled. We have Cobre's influence, Campero's influence, Vargas' influence, we have landmarks, we have the Changos, and I mean, you just throw a stone in a direction, you can get into a group, you can get into a high school group, and there's no limit to the wealth of knowledge of people there, and experiences like that. You know, you tell me that, and I think, oh shit, I flash back 15 years ago to the first time I was on stage at the Mariachi conference. I'm like, it's the same feeling. You know, it's the same thing. It's that realness, and it's why people love the mariachi music and the culture. You know, I had when I was in college, and there was a white pianist, right? And he was taking classes at the U of A, and he got into the ethnomusicology electives, right? And he saw that I was teaching some of them because of mariachi music as a TA. And he's like, what's the deal? Is the idea of mariachi music is always like the Mexican hat dance and all that kind of cheesy stuff. And he's like, well, let me check it out, because they all have to go to performances, right? So I'm like, come to the mariachi conference, go to the show, don't go to the after party, you're not going to fit in. Trust me, you're not. They're going to be passed out. You'll be passed out, you're not going to fit in, you're going to be a whole different kind of white person after that, right? So just trust me. And so he went for his class, and then the next Monday he came back and he's like, dude, I did a little bit more research, and it's like, your genre is so unique. It's not like jazz or like classical. I see kids that are so enthusiastic about playing and singing music that their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents grew up listening to. It's like, did these ever change? And I'm like, not really. The repertoire evolves a little bit, and then you have interpretation of performance, and you know, it goes from like those first recordings of Marmolejo and Vargas to Sol de Mexico, Camperos, Vargas, America, you know, Nuevo, and all the stuff, and Cobre, what they push out, and it's awesome, right? High-level classical training going into all those performances, and polished and educated, university music level, right? And he saw that. He's like, dude, that's an amazing genre. And I'm like, I told you. You didn't go to the after party, did you? He's like, no. I went home after that. I was like, okay, good. At least you listen, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very powerful, right? And so it struck you at that early age that was something to get into. And then did you start making mariachi instruments soon after, or is there a little bit of time?
I went there, and then was just completely, I just loved it. And you know, a little bit of background, you know, you can't hide my skin color. We moved to an area that was predominantly white, and I was always battling, because I remember doing a talent show, and I played guitar, and people were like, what, you know? And I was playing these pieces that, what, you know, what's this guy?
You got stereotyped.
Oh, big time. This was in the early 70s, mid 70s. And so, hence the boxing, you know. Sort of
take your anger out a little bit, right?
Yeah. And so when I went there, I just felt like I felt at home, you know. And so we come back home, and, you know, I was trying to pursue something in sports. I ended up injuring myself pretty bad in football, and I'd go to work in another field, and I come to help my dad because he wanted to go to a wedding, and I didn't want to go. So he's like, will you watch the shop for me for a week? And I'm like, all right, but 1 week. And he's like, yeah. So anyway, that week they went to Arizona, they were in Tucson, and then they ended up in Nogales, they ended up in Hermosillo, and forget about it. He was gone for a month. And it was funny because people were coming in saying, oh, the third generation, and blah, and I'm like, no.
Just take it easy.
Take it easy. I'm not staying. I even told my dad, I don't even want to get paid. I'm going to be here to help out, and then I'm going to leave.
You had other ideas and aspirations before going to building it. guitars.
Yeah, yeah. I've always loved. I'm into cars, as you know, and I'm into. I just like to build stuff, and so, but I didn't have any intentions of building guitars. I wanted to play guitar, but I didn't really want to build them. But my grandpa was here, and I said, "Mi papá no va a regresar." Le digo, "Ya sé lo que van a hacer. He's gonna go to Hermosillo and go to my tíos over there." And he's like, "Well, just relax." He's like, I go, "Well, let's make a vihuela." I figured something that won't take too much of my time, and so he's like, "Oh, okay." So we fiddled around and I made a vihuela. I didn't get to finish it in time, but my dad came back, and my grandpa sort of got me warmed up to the idea of nobody presented me building anything like working here. It was just like he was very kind to me, very inviting to me, and when it came to work with my grandpa, he wasn't that person. He wanted to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk to him. He just comes to build and goes home. Anyways.
Okay, my grandfather, my tata, I have two grandfathers. My tata passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
Lo mismo, same thing. We're working, kind, sweet, generous, and smart, right? He suckered you into that. He's like, let's just try it. It'll be fun, right? It'll be good.
Yeah, you see it now as an older, as a father, you see it, but as a
trick.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I didn't finish it. My dad comes in and I start telling him what was going on, and then he saw the vihuela, and here I am thinking he's not going to recognize it, but obviously. I know now that when I see inlays and I see finish and I see a bridge, and I know who built it, whether it's in China or Mexico or Australia, because I studied other builders.
Right.
My dad's like, oh, okay, who built that? So I said, you know what, Dad, I think I'll stay. And so the long and the short is I end up staying and get into the classical thing again, and I started I saw immediately there was a need in the mariachi. I saw it immediately. I saw the instruments, I saw what people were playing, and one of my clients, a really amazing person, was Timoteo.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
Timoteo came up to me, and he was a customer of ours, and we'd always do repairs, and he said, "Mijo, there's a lot of beautiful vihuelas that sound terrible, and there's a lot of really terrible looking vihuelas that sound pretty good, but they don't play well." He's all, build something that has everything in it.
Right.
And so I decided to go a little crazy, and I built a bunch of vihuelas, and we already had guitars. We were selling rhythm guitars a lot, and then built some guitarrones, and I told my dad I'm going to go to the Tucson conference. And they weren't receptive of it.
They saw it as a risk or a waste.
A risk, a waste. There was no market because they're like, you're not going to sell them. And even if you sell them, you're going to have to give them away. No one's going to pay this much for them.
There's Morales, and then there's what I call OTMs, other than Morales.
Yeah, there was, even at that time, it was Morales and really just a handful of, stuff being made in Tijuana or Paracho that was just whatever. But nobody really took it. Morales obviously took pride in his work, and he did some amazing work, and I got to meet him. We'll talk about that. But so I said, no, I'm going to do this. And they didn't really support me. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And so on my own dime, I filled up my car. I took off in the middle of the night, and I show up to Tucson. I think I got there. I went at night because it was so hot. I didn't want the instruments to get damaged. And I remember Jaime Ballesteros knocking on my door at like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and I drove in, I think, at like 2 in the morning. He's like pounding on my door.
I want to see what you got.
Tomas, what you got? I opened the door, I'm like, what's up? How'd you know I was here? He's like, you told me where you were going to stay. He's like, I know the owner of the hotel. He told me your room number. He's like, come on, let's go. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, well, I got some friends downstairs.
They're just like addicts. Like, let's see what you got.
Let's go.
Let's go right now, right? They want to see it.
Oh, I can't tell you how I was invited to the showcases when I'm literally standing next to Roberto Martinez, Luis Damian, or Chuy Hernandez. There was Vargas, Camperos, Sol, Cobre. And they used to rehearse a week before the conference.
Wow.
I think it was like 3 or 4 days they had before the conference actually started.
Yeah, usually, well, I mean, I've seen they'll start like planning, like, months in advance, and then the week or two before, you get all the music, everything's written, and you're going, and then that
They're all rehearsing.
You're all rehearsing, yeah.
And I get to show up. I'm literally standing there, and then they're like, "Come on, like this. Come on, eat, eat." And I'm there with my vihuela. I was 20-some years old, and I got invited to the party, and I just, you're talking about how other people, other cultures are like trying to get involved, whatever. I was picturing like river rafting. Like if you're into river rafting and you're even thinking about it, there's no real. You're either a spectator or you're jumping on.
Yeah.
And when you get on, you're going.
You're going.
And
the water's going to take you.
This ship has been going for a while, and this is our gig. And Tucson, you grow up in Tucson playing mariachi, and it's like, I have these ideas. Oh yeah, get on, let's go.
Yeah,
no, let's go. But that, not okay. And it's like we've been doing this for years. You guys know the tradition.
Yeah.
You can have ideas, you can do it, but no, the tradition part is we start at the top of the mountain, we end up at the bottom of the mountain.
You're going to get there.
It is
you're either going to get there pristine, or you're going to have a bunch of bumps and bruises at the end of the day.
But at the end of the day, you're going to have a smile on your face.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I saw a need, and so I sold all the instruments I had. I think it was 13 or 15 instruments I took that weekend.
Around what year was this?
This was 1990.
Wow, way back.
90?
Man.
I was the only person that was taking instruments to the shows. There was only one other person that was a builder that was involved in the mariachi show scene, and it was Pimentel. And it was, the only reason he was involved was he was donating a guitar for the Las Cruces festival, and he was friends with Jose Ronstadt.
Yeah, they still do that.
Yes.
They still do that, yeah.
And so when Jose Ronstadt saw me there, and I was doing really well, and I was receptive, I was listening to what everybody wanted, I was taking in all what people needed, and coming back and building them, and then I'd go back again to the next year, and the next year.
Wow.
And so I told Jose Ronstadt, I said, I would like to donate to, he says, yeah, it was through him. Great man, he's so cool, I love that guy, he's been such a good friend. Very supportive, very, what would you call, loyal, very loyal friend.
Genuine.
Well, genuine and loyal.
And the family in general. I mean, I remember one of the family members donated an entire catalog of music to the U of A.
Yeah.
I remember one of my senior projects to get my music degree was to catalog and do all the library work for that stuff. I was like, where did all this come from? There's LPs, there's cassettes, there's stuff that I've never heard of before. I'm like, let's just donate it from the Ronstadt family.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Amazing.
Gets deep.
So I started building these instruments, and it was just a planned event. Not only did I love the scene, the el ambiente, but the people. I made so many good friends. Jaime Ballesteros was just phenomenal to me, and all the friends that I met in Tucson. And so I started to. What I noticed was, with my classical stuff, clients, and any other repair work that we did or guitar making that we built, whether it was we were building dreadnoughts or parlor guitars or classical or flamenco, they sort of viewed mariachi as.
That's one of the topics that we want to talk about. That's definitely a thing where there's contention, aristocratic, and snobby attitudes between classical, flamenco, and folk. There's a little bit of that, right? There's a little bit of flamenco. I've seen some comments where you'll have a flamenco guitarist get a hold of a classical, and they're like, why are you playing flamenco on a classical guitar? It's like, what is this pretentious attitude coming from? You know what I mean? It's like, there's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that, and back then there was some of that, but I have to say that the mariachi was sort of viewed like not even a close second or third or fourth. I'm not going to say that what I noticed was it wasn't so much that the musicians weren't talented or they weren't great people or anything like that. I think it was just overall maybe the approach and the level of the instruments and that part of it. And so the tools.
You need to have a good toolkit. Like you go to any classical guitarist, right? And they expect to pay what they expect to pay for a concert guitar, right? There's no sticker shock about a classical guitar, right? You go to some of the mariachi people and you say, well, here's how much a real instrument is going to cost you. And they're like, oh my God, that's unheard of, outworldly. It's like, well, I don't know what to tell you, right?
Well, again, it gets back to what Timoteo said. Like, you can pick up a guitar, oh my gosh, it sounds great, but maybe in a year, because of the character of tension and the engineering behind it and the setup, your hands are killing you. You can't,
I felt that a lot.
Or you become a more seasoned player and you start to move up and down the fretboard and the intonation's off.
And the instrument is holding you back, right? You're progressing beyond its capability.
And the thing is you get comfortable, you don't want to spend any money, you want to keep it at $100, and then all of a sudden you approach somebody that plays music, that's whether a classical, flamenco, or maybe a composer, a writer, a professor at a college, whatever, and they hear you playing and you're out of tune. And you know what they're going to do. They're like, oh, that's great.
So nice.
And they walk away.
Oh, it's such a pet peeve of mine. I've told people in mariachi groups I perform with, because, we do shows. They're not competition, right? We're professional groups. But a little bit of competition is like, okay, who's the best sounding? Who made the most mistakes? Who, missed the bowling and missed the manico? And I told my guys, I was like, if you ever hear the other group come up to you and say, you guys did so good, I'm just like, cool. I'm like, F yourself, man. I don't want to hear that. That means I suck. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know what I want to see? I want to see you guys just looking like, nice, okay, wow. I want to see that.
Picking up your jaw.
Yeah, pick up the jaw. Like, they can't even say anything, right? I was like, when you guys see that look, and it's not to be cocky. It's not to be arrogant. It's just like, your worst enemy should always be the person in the mirror. You should always look at yourself and like, that's what I need to beat, right? And so when you mess up and you're not well practiced, you don't have a good instrument, and you get that feedback, like, oh, that's so nice, you get so well. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I suck.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's shame on the luthiers and shame on the performers.
Yeah.
Shame on both.
On both.
And so when I got involved, there was a brass manufacturer here off the 5 freeway. And I started learning a little bit, the very little that I studied about the trumpet. And so I got a trumpet that I had some friends look at, and I made a mariachi trumpet in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And came up with the guitar. I was building the best vihuelos I could make, guitarrones, and outfitting them. And I would go to the shows, and I would present them, and yeah, some people were completely sticker shocked, but I just didn't care. I was like, you use the word standard, and that's why my mariachi, I have a model called the Standard, and that came from a good friend of mine called Javier Trujillo.
Javier. One of my early inspirations, and playing guitarra de golpe and playing guitar, and every time I was a kid playing next to that guy, I'm just like, shit, I have a long way to go.
Phenomenal person, and it's in one of my I had already been doing this for a while, and I remember my dad saying, if you're gonna be doing this, let's do it right. Make a guitarra de golpe, and I'm like, what is that?
Oh,
so my grandpa and my dad were like, look, everybody, they don't know what this is. They call it la guitarra quinta. And they play like a vihuela.
Yeah, wrong.
And he's like, my dad, he could play, he knew tuning, he knew this and that. He's like, look, you can tune this thing 2-3 different ways. So he started explaining everything to me. Well, let's do it. And I'm going to take it to Cobre. So I met with Roberto at his mom's house in San Diego. And they were doing a rehearsal then we're getting ready for a concert with, I think it was Vicky Carr. And I brought it out, and he goes, "Wait, oh, that's a guitarra aquí?" I go, no, that's a guitarra de golpe.
We got the tuning straight, the Michoacano tuning and the standard Jalisco tuning, yeah.
And he goes, I go, well, you guys consider yourselves the most traditional mariachi, and you should have one of these in your group because nobody else has it. And even if they were to have it, they play like a vihuela, and that's not the right voice.
Gets on my nerves a little bit. You see me on my videos, I do golpe videos just because, again, you see the market, right? It's like no one's putting this out, so I know how to play it, I'll put it out. I'll put myself out there, I don't care. Like, Jason sucks, you can't play. It's like, hey, I'm just trying to get good, right? And yeah, I get a lot of those comments on my videos where it's like, can you tune it like a guitar? Can you tune it like a vihuela? I'm like, you can. I don't see the reason to do it because it's actually easier to play it in the standard tuning, in Michoacano tuning or in the Jalisco tuning or the Urbano tuning. It's easier to do that and it's better for you.
Yeah.
And that's...
Well, it's a voice, it's like if you can sing in that voice, and you could sing in primera, segunda, tercera.
Another register, yeah.
It's those who know, are like, and even if you don't know, you hear it and you're like, I've never heard that before.
Right.
You don't know why you're captured by it, but it's a space in your heart that hasn't been. It's there, but you don't hear it often. Anyway, I'll never forget after that meeting. You know how when Robert looked at this, I drove home and I called Javier Trujillo and I said, "You want to play with Mariachi Cobra?" He's like, "What are you talking about? That'd be a dream of mine."
I'm just waiting by the phone.
I said, well, they're going to be looking for a guitar de golpe player soon. You better get one of these and figure out how to play it. Okay. He's like, what? He's like, okay. So I got him one. Sure enough, they put out the rehearsals, and who was there? Javier Trujillo.
Those are some of the best videos I've seen where Javier, Frank, Roberto, and Randy, like, I'll listen to them play Las Mañanitas 10 times. Because it's just... I hear all the timbre, I hear all the register, and I'm just sitting at work or in my office, and I'm just listening to this. Listening to them play Arriba Pichata, or listening to play La Vecchina, or El Rincon back in the day. And that's nothing but armonia. And I'm just like, is everybody else listening to this? Are we capturing all of this, right? Are we putting this up, in front of new students and saying, this is as close as you're going to get to standard, right? There's Rigoberto Alfaro, there's Pato, and then there's this, right? So, come on, guys, right? I'm not saying you got to be the best in the world, but I mean...
That's just another level. That's the beginning of the top.
Yeah, have something to shoot for, right? It's like, you're never going to be as good as Frank Grijalva. That guy's legendary, right?
He's legit.
Yeah, he's scary.
All those guys are legit. I mean, and to put them together as professional and as talented as they are, more importantly, to see them so humbly put together and how they were just all of them. Randy was so amazing to me, such a nice guy. I got to restore his Morales, and I definitely built replicas off of that, and they guided me on what they were chasing, that tone.
You want to have a feel, and you want to have a sound.
We all want everything. We all want everything, and you know what? My job was to tell everybody, you want it, you deserve it, I'm going to build it, and if you can't buy it, then that's on you.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I'm going to put it out there, and I remember when Javier went to go work at the schools, and he said, Tomas, what are other schools doing wrong? Because we want to start a program in Clark County. And I said, I'll tell you what they're doing wrong. They're giving, I gave him the formula of what was happening, and he took to it. And I said, the other issue that I see is there's a violin, a half size, a 3/4, and a full size. And I said, and mariachi instruments in regards to vihuelas and guitarrones are just sort of put together.
Yeah, they come out how they come out.
There's no mathematical standard, and that's when Javier says, you need to create a standard in the market. And I said, okay. So that's why I called this model my standard model. And
Very good segue. That's a big topic why I came out to LA to talk to you about is the mariachi guitar.
Yeah.
I remember when I was about 15, 16 in Changos, and you brought some of your first like mariachi guitars to Tucson. And I remember being a kid and everybody was looking at it like, what the hell is a mariachi guitar? What is this? 'Cause everybody knew Candelas guitars was like, I was like, what kind of guitar do I need to get for mariachi? Well, you can go to Paracho and you can roll the dice, or you can call Tomas. Those are your options, bro. Figure it out, right? And then you came out with that mariachi guitar that had like the old school, like 18th century Torres like bridge design. It was actually shaved and it was calibrated and it had the things to prevent fret buzz and it had pegs on it. And I was like, what in hell is that thing? I want one.
Right.
And I ended up buying one when I was about 16, right after. I think it was for the 40th anniversary of the Changos.
Oh, yeah.
That was the deadline because we were going to be on stage with Cobre. The year before that, we were on stage with Cobre just at the conference, and then that was the first time I played Vihuela on stage, right next to Roberto Martinez, and that,
It's like I could go back. You were reminding me of times.
So many things. Yeah, so many like life events just kind of make you who you are, right?
I remember you walking into the main conference area, the little kid and your buddies. And
Shit, I want one of those. What's that? Can I get one? Please.
Right.
It's like, maybe someday.
Yeah, Javier Maciel. Not
Maciel.
going back into the workshops and just singing, grabbing every instrument and singing and
Busting it out, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's rich, it's thick, it's deep, it's rich in culture,
Wow.
And I remember that, and that effed my life up for forever. Like I heard them play the Jorge Negrete Potpourri when I was about 14, 15. I didn't know that music could sound like that. I didn't know that it could be that powerful. And then we opened, I remember the 40th conference celebration with E, Javier Solis too. Old school. And I'm on Vihuela because our Vihuela player was a singer. And everything was perfect, right? The sound. And I immediately, it was a Candelas. He had a Candelas Vihuela. And I'm just like, oh man, I can't go back. Like you said, once you're in the river, right? And you're not getting out, right? You're either a spectator or you're in the river. And I jumped in the river at like 15 years old.
Yeah,
and I'm 32 now. I'm going to be 33 soon. And it's
32, wow.
Yeah, I don't.
You're getting old.
I'm getting old. Damn, I am getting old. I have this thing. All of my friends and peers and mentors are all older than me. Like I'm like the mayor from everybody, and everyone's the mayor to me. And I'm just like, now I'm seeing the other generation coming in, and I'm like, damn, now I'm getting that little like gray beard. It's like, okay, so we have to be good stewards. That was the whole point of starting the podcast. Like we have to be stewards of the culture. Have fun, have scotch. Scotch is a requirement.
Yes.
But the mariachi guitar has evolved. I've seen it a little bit from the one that I bought back when I was about 16 to the one I have now. It's changed.
It has. It is, again, it was when I study a flamenco player and he tells me what the true, pure, traditional sound and feel of a great flamenca is, then I look at a flamenca now and I not only look at the look of it, the mathematics of it immediately just start going into my head. And then I look at a classical and it's a different, it's like I'm going, let's say, from a steak to however you want to describe it, but your approach to
different cut of meat.
Different cut of meat, and the sound on that, the numbers start running through my head on the classical. And when I thought of a mariachi guitar, because I'm out there trying, I'm not a performer, I'm not a player, none of that, but when I play enough to try to understand what you want when you explain it to me. And so when I was doing those in my early years, I was like, I can't play this right. It doesn't feel right. It's not engineered for this style of music. And so
you can't take a Ramirez 1A and be successful in mariachi. You can't take a fleta flamenco blanca and be successful. And why the hell would you? They're so expensive to get, right?
Well, and that's the cool thing. I mean, they are expensive, and there's a durability that is needed when you're a working musician. Mm-hmm. And so, I remember Scott Tennant saying, I went to a mini concert where he was trying to sell guitars for a company, and he says, some of these guitars, first of all, I can't afford them, and he said, second of all, I can't buy a guitar like this because it will not withstand my schedule. If I'm flying to Oregon during the winter, and then I'm going to Tucson or wherever he's flying to, or Europe or whatever, those tops are just so fragile and that they will not withstand the rigorous
change in temperature, change in pressure, the play wear, the performance, because the performer becomes alive, right? That's the whole point. Is the instrument truly is, in my mind, it's the medium between me and the audience, and the collaborative instrument between myself and everybody else on stage. It has to all function perfectly, right? Otherwise, you get kind of a shitty gig, and it's not fun.
Yeah, and it's so this instrument basically, the way I got to meet Rigoberto Alfaro, and we were going to build a model for him, and we were going to do, I met several of the old greats, and I was trying to get something going with that, but it was just too difficult. It's a lot more from Mexico, and it was hard to schedule and this and that. But I have my Alfaros. I have them with you. I have them with Roberto. I have them with Chuy Hernandez, who's just, I remember he was in a recording studio, and he owned 3 or 4 of my guitars, and so funny. He's in the studio and they're recording. It was a midday recording, and he said his brother was like, "That guitar sounds terrible. Take it to Tomas and get another one." And he's like, "It's not a Candelas." And he goes, "I don't care. I don't want it. Get it out of here."
What are you doing coming into my studio? Bourbon time.
Well, it was funny because he shows up and he almost got caught. Well, he got caught. He shows up, he goes, "Tomas, I need a guitar and I need it quick." Well, what's up? He's like, "We're recording," and my brother just called me out. And it was, it was more of a production name. I mean, this guitar. And I go, "What are you doing playing this when you have," and he goes, "Listen, Tomas," he's like, "I just wanted to try something." So he got another guitar for me, but I thought that was just was flattering because, Jose just heard
something.
He didn't like it. And he was like, "Take it to Tomas, I don't like that guitar." And he's like, "It's not a Candelas."
What are you doing?
It's like, I was like, "Yes," So anyway,
there's proof in the pudding, right?
Well, the guitars were engineered. My mariachi guitars are engineered for mariachis. They are, as a builder, I've had some of these big internet companies bash me in regards to my classical and flamencas because I build guitarras, and because I build mariachi guitars. And I was building ukuleles too. We've been building ukuleles since the 50s. And now it's funny because those internet companies are selling ukuleles. Now they're selling everything. Yeah.
I saw a Fender Guitarron in Tucson for sale. I'm like, Fender's making, and you know what it looked like? It looked like an exact poor copy of a Morales bass.
Yeah.
Like some joker got a hold of a Morales and just copied it. Yeah. It had a little bit of the sound and the characteristic, but it was missing. And it would be a good gig instrument, I guess, if you were like gigging in a shady part of town and like, I don't want kids to be scratching my Morales bass, so I'll just take this. But then over time, it's like, what's going to happen to your hands? Like I tell people, I'm like, if I have a guitarron that I have to work on to make it sound decent, at the end of the night, my hands are shot. I can't even train the next day. It's really bad.
I tell people my saying is good as good. And, I don't sell instruments based on price. Mm-hmm. Some guitars cost more. Some vihuelas, some guitarrones, because it just takes more time. And the good is good. And so when you're used to tasting a Macallan or a Pappy Van Winkle, or you're drinking cognac, or you're having these amazing chile rellenos that this lady makes every afternoon in season, whatever, and you've tasted that.
It's hard to go back.
It's hard to go back. And now I understand that every once in a while I have the craving to go have fast food, but on a daily, weekly basis, I'm probably going to have either a healthy shake or I'm going to be eating something homemade, something legit.
Yeah. And
so good is good. Now, if you and I walk down the street and we see a guitar for sale at a yard sale, we're probably going to race each other to get to it.
Just to see.
We just want to do.
Oh yeah, every time.
Right.
I go into stores and people look at me like I'm crazy because I'll do exactly that. I'll just go, okay, that's a shoebox.
But you want to hear it a little bit, right?
Yeah, you want to know what it is.
So we pick it up, and let's just say it's whatever the name of the guitar is, and it's $15, and it's a great deal.
Yeah. And
one of us probably would buy it, and maybe, like for me, if I think it's salvageable and somebody could create some happiness in somebody's life, maybe I'll tinker with it over a course of a month or a year or 2 years, and then at some point when I feel like you hold a tune, I'll give it to somebody or whatever. But are you going to practice on that guitar 4 hours a day and then go perform with it? No. Because the one thing that you can't get back is time.
Yeah. Things that I live my life by. Yeah, you told me that years ago too, and I listen. Maybe that's one of my keys to why I do is what I do, and as well as I've done so far. I actually listen to people that tell me stuff,
Yeah.
And yeah, you can't get back time.
You can't get it, and through the loss of my father at 52 years old, he died young. It really hit me on how valuable time is.
Yeah.
And
it's a hard lesson to learn that way.
It's a hard lesson to learn. It's hard when it has to come from somebody so close to you, but it was a very difficult time for almost 10, 12 years. It was very difficult, but I've learned to just absolutely appreciate the sacrifice that he made to teach me everything that I know, and the lifestyle. So getting back to this guitar, we can all appreciate just about every instrument, whether your neighbor decides to take up lutherie or you go find a Reyes or a Fleta or a Friedrich or an old Candelas.
If you get lucky, you know how to hunt. That's what I do. I like the hunt.
Sure.
I almost found an old Manuel Senior with a Reyes guitar. Brazilian. It was like $1,800. Someone was selling it. They didn't know what they had. I checked my bank account. I'm like, well, I can pay my rent to my car or I could buy this guitar. I guess I got to pay the bills. And then the guitar was gone. It was gone that next day. I was like, damn it. All right. Well, it's casualty of war. But I see those and I'm just like, I'll pass them along to people. I'm like, hey guys, check this stuff out. And they're like, $1,800. I'm like, what else are you going to go buy? Well, like, go to Guitar Center and go buy whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, well, how do I know what to pick at Guitar Center? I'm like, literally, you could go like this and throw a dart, and you're going to get about whatever the price tag is. That's it. Simple. And enjoy life.
Yeah, even if it has, they're all pretty much manufactured about the same.
That's a big issue is taking the time to handcraft something versus produce something in mass. I don't see much benefit other than cost for production in mass, right? So that's one thing is like, how does a person choose a guitar versus a senior person who knows what they want and need out of a guitar? You know what I mean? So choosing a guitar is a big thing. Budget is certainly one of them. Sound, for me, I would rather see something that sounds amazing versus something that looks amazing. When you can find both, all right, you're on the money, right? You're okay, you lucked out, you're doing well, but playability is also a factor to sound. You can get something that screams on the D string or the E that has a vibrose, profile for chords, but it's so hard to play that you're not going to survive a 10-hour day. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of mariachis do. I did it last weekend. I was dead. I started on vihuela, I ended on guitarrón, because we played about 10 hours that day. And I'm just like, ooh, all right. And the guys in the group I just joined are just like, you play guitarrón too? I was like, yeah, man, what do you guys think you were paying for when you hired me?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you have to come with it. There's no
Well,
way.
the thing is if you're surrounded by these instruments that they inspire you
Yes.
and they motivate you and they just make you want to pick them up.
Yes.
And it's then when you pick them up, if the character of tension and the tone and everything about it is exactly what it was when you bought it, then you immediately, your body adjusts to that instrument. And when you pick it up, you acclimate to it immediately because you know it's a familiar. It's like when you walk into the room, I'm going to give you a hug. I already know what
Yeah.
my attitude changes.
Yeah.
Here he is, and let's go. And so that's how these instruments are. Now, if you know that you're picking up an inferior instrument or something that just doesn't fit you, it would be like going to eat something that you just hate eating and you have to eat it, and why go through life
I'd
that
rather
way?
starve.
Well, it's a lifestyle. It's especially if you're a professional. We see, getting back to the reason why I did this is because I did see a lot of mariachis that needed and wanted, and then I found mariachis that just didn't represent, and I still see it today.
It's out there. I live in Phoenix. That's what we've been battling for 2 years now.
I see these stage artists, they're well, I got this guitar so and so, and I only paid this much for it, and it sounds great. And I'm like, okay, so I go to play it up here. I'm like, oh, it doesn't too. And so
Frets are off.
yeah, this, and that's okay. But like I said, when I was going to these festivals, I was the only guy out there, and now, from what I understand, I don't go anymore.
Yeah.
And now, from what I understand, there's a lot of people. And I guess I'm just excited to see that there's more opportunities for luthiers and more opportunities for students to get their hands on instruments and play. And they'll figure it out. Some people will get it, some people won't.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
It's a crazy world we live in. That mariachi guitar and the guitarra de golpe, the vihuela. So I know we've been talking for a little bit. I don't want to take up all your day. So going through evolving, right? Because that's what happens. As I think a musician and a luthier, this will probably be one of the last topics, but striving to become your best as a luthier and as a musician, they're symbiotic. The great, Paco de Lucia or Pepe Romero, they're not as great as they can be without Conde Hermanos or without Domingo Esteso, without Fleta, without Rodriguez, Hauser. Andres is not Andres without his Hauser, right? So how do you respond to today's culture where there is the easy way out? We all know the easy way out is just going to Guitar Center and putting some money on a big factory and, okay, we can just shit out instruments every month, right? Versus responding to criticism, because I think we've all heard criticism of everything, playing, building. I've heard people talk about your vihuelas and basses, comparing them to modales, and say they're not the same. I've heard a lot of negative stuff or saying, there's too much finish, or there's not enough sound. And how do you respond to things like that? How do you evolve and change? Because you seem like you're always taking in feedback. You know the math, right? You know what you're doing. How do you then go back out and implement that out into the world?
Well, there are people I've learned through this world that you're just not going to change how they think. And if they're true Candelas followers, then they're going to stick and follow Candelas. And if they're Morales or Paracho or China or whatever, once they get stuck on something,
It's hard to change.
It's hard to change, and I think it's we want to influence people. I don't really want to change anybody. If let them do that on their own. I'm not going to change anyone. I'm just going to try to influence them in a positive way. And so when somebody comes to me and says, well, I don't like this or I don't like this about your instruments and I want it to sound more like this, if they're coming to me in a constructive, healthy manner, then let's sit down if they know how to play and they're looking for an instrument, then I can dissect what the difference is.
You need some real feedback, not just someone vomiting words at you, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they just, if you're just, if I'm a target that they just want to shoot at every once in a while, then that's a difficult part of retail.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part of it is, I, like yourself, I enjoy some of the positive feedback. I appreciate it, but I want to get better. I don't want to stop. I just don't want to stop. I'm not, even with my last guitar, I'm like, I could do this different. So I'm going to try it again and then try it again. And when somebody comes to me, I encourage them, bring your guitar, let's hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see let's see how you play.
Yeah.
Then let's see, the instrument that you're playing. And then I'll know why you like that more than what I make. And then we can decide if I'm going to make something similar to what you like and maybe improve on what you have. Or if there's nothing I can do, then why are you here? Then
go find another.
That means you like something else.
That means you're in a different ecosystem.
And I'm okay with that.
Someone who uses Apple versus Android. It's like they do what they do. You're going to pick one or the other. You're in an ecosystem. And it's funny you say that because, okay, we're friends. You're a mentor. When I came 2 years ago to buy the mariachi guitar, I had already bought one from you almost a decade earlier. And I'm like, well, let's see what's going on. And I had that flamenco guitar, and I'm like, I know how this sounds, and this is your dad's work. It's like, I've had, 15 years of studying and just, refining what I can hear and feel, and, I'm still amateur at best when it comes to certain things. And I understand that, and I was like, let's see what the Mas has. I'm so curious. I was actually nervous. I was getting anxiety about it. I'm just like, and so I brought that guitar. I was playing your dad's flamenco guitar from the 70s, right? And then I pick up the standard mariachi guitar. And I told my wife, she was here with me, and I was like, Jesus, man. Tomas's new stuff is like that much more better than his father's work. And it's like, when you're talking about high level, because your dad's work is nothing to snark at or anything. It's amazing, right? And I was like, but Tomas's is like, how do you beat the law of diminishing returns, right? How do you go forward when the margin is already there and you just get that much better, right? That much cleaner. And then I picked up your more expensive Model Especial, and that was even better than the standard. I'm just like, damn, okay, well, let's get one. I don't have anything else to say. I'm just like, I want one right now. And when I play that guitar, I play that pretty much, that's the only guitar I play on stage right now, right? When we do a performance, the last performance I did, I was helping our youth group in Phoenix back up, I think it was Garcia Latran, and she had another guy, he was from San Diego, I forget what his name is, he's a young singer, he's a ranchera singer, and he came up to me behind stage, he's like, bro, where did you get that guitar? Because we were doing sound check. And the kids are the kids, right? So it's like, and then we have our vihuela player, and he's like, ting, 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 ting. I was like, oh, they're so cute, they're little. And then I was like, guys, you can get up on this mic, and we were trying to do a sound check, right? So I had that guitar, and I just filled the whole room with it was like everyone was like, holy shit, okay. I was like, yeah, get on the mic, guys. We need to test the sound. And when we're playing on stage with a guy that was singing, I think he's like 17, 18 years old, and God damn, I forget his name. I'm sorry if he's watching this. When he's singing the rancheras, right? And it's just basically him and the rhythm section for a lot of these songs. And as a singer, when you're out there and you have the rhythm section trying to support you, if you can't hear them, you're a little lost, and you're like, shit, I wish they would beef it up a little bit, right? And but then there's the opposite where like you're drowning the shit out of the singer, so you have to have that balance, right? And so I'm playing and I'm adjusting to him and his singing and where he's at. He comes up to me, he's like, dude, where did you get that guitar? Like that's the dopest thing I've ever heard, man. Like, who built that? And I was like, well, where do you live? Are you in Mexico? Are you in California? He's like, I live in San Diego. I was like, when you go to Los Angeles, there's a shop called Candelas Guitars. Go see Tomas and tell him I sent you, and go get a guitar. Because if you're a guitar player, that's the only guitar you're ever going to need. And it's funny you talk about brand and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you know, I had my first guitar was with you and the mariachi guitar, and then I went and I tried Conde, I tried Domingos de, so I hunt down old guitars. And I keep going back to the shop. I was like, I can't find anything better. I've tried. You know, we're friends, but I'm still gonna be honest with you. I'm just like,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna see if there's more. I mean,
no, when you find that guitar, you bring it to me, and I'll try to make something even better.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing more recently. Is like I'll find some of your family's work, and a lot of people have been doing that. You know, and so kind of to wrap up the podcast is the tradition and the culture and restoring history. So that's a big part of what you do. Is people will find old Morales's, old, you know, concert Daniel Friedrichs guitars that are, I mean, not for nothing, guys. If you want to go out there and find a Daniel Friedrichs guitar, or if you want to find a Fritz Aubert, or you want to get a Hauser, or Martin, you're shelling out thousands of dollars.
10s, 50, 60 to 100,000.
I've gotten ridiculed because I have a video on my channel about how to choose a classical, and I get these comments from these guys like, all you need is $1,000 guitar. I'm like, okay, maybe that's all you need, bro. Good for you. Have you ever played a Hauser? I've played one. I don't even want to get near it. I'm afraid to touch the damn thing. Have you ever played a Santos Hernandez from the 1930s? I've played one, and again, I'm afraid to even touch the thing, right? Because
you played the one I have.
Yeah, I played the one you have, and that thing, like, it just, like, every register in the air gets filled with sound. And you're like, how the hell is this possible? So, how do you see yourself with your time? Building instruments, doing the mariachi thing, having that impact on the culture, and then restoring history, making it new again.
You know, there was a man. His name was Yuris.
Yeah, I've heard of him. He would work on Pepe Romero's guitars, the one that got destroyed in the snow on one of his concert tours, right?
It turns out that he used to go frequent my uncle's shop in Mexico.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was a good friend of my uncle, my grandpa's. And he told me, I got to meet him and took a guitar to him with a friend of mine. And we went over the guitar and he said, you know, Tomas, I repair and restore instruments. He goes, and I look at your guitars and, you know, hopefully you can get in touch with him. He was very flattering about my sound of the guitars I'm building. But he said, there's a couple of things that you're missing, and I want to see if I can help you with that.
Oh, shit. Teach me. Please, I'm not worthy. Please teach me.
He ended up coming here and spending 12 hours with me, and I went to his shop many times, and it pushed me even further to travel to Europe and Mexico and study the different finishes, and maybe I knew the difference, but no, I was going just for that reason, to study the differences. And so when somebody brings me a Friedrich or a Martin or a Ramirez, whether it's from the 30s, the 60s, the 80s, I understand the type of finish that it has, and I know the approach that I should take to not take away the value of the instrument, to maintain its integrity. In some cases, if it's been damaged a lot, to improve on it. But
that's one point from mariachi guitars. Don't refinish your guitars.
Well, and it just depends. And most of the time, I'm going to agree with you. But there are times that you may not have a choice.
It's going to turn into driftwood if you don't. Right?
Yeah, because when the guitar is gone, then it's gone. And so it just depends, but most of the time we don't want to do that. If you buy something in its original case and you like it, let's protect it and then just keep going. You have a French polished guitar, it's like owning an Indy car. You're gonna have to make pit stops and bring it to me and
get touch-ups
and have it done. And I've used this recently because of my love for cars, but I tell people, you guys are the Indy car driver and I'm your pit crew.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is to try to keep you safe, but have you perform at the highest level possible. And that's what I will do on the restoration and the repair side of it. That's what I want to do. And then obviously, if I get to build a custom guitar or a car while you're out doing the race, you're on that river rafting, and I want to make sure that you have the right instrument. there's an approach to restoration, there's an approach to new construction. But when in regards to time, I will turn 50 in April.
Wow.
And
See, this is what boxing and martial arts and staying in shape and eating well does. You don't look 50.
and Scotch.
And you know what? I have 3 rules in life. Good Scotch, Jiu-Jitsu, and mariachi. Those are my 3 rules. That's how I'm 32. I don't look 32. You know? A lot of people still mistake me like, you're 24, 26, 27. I'm like, you see some of this gray? I'm in my early 30s.
Yeah.
So, man, what do you do? Scotch.
Preservation.
Cleans out the blood. You know, it's good for you. You know?
Well, yeah, it's the time. I'm feeling it. I definitely am feeling it. I'm slowing down. I've always been a person with a lot of energy, so I won't be building as many instruments anymore.
That must frighten you a little bit because you look at the previous builders and they have a catalog. They have numbers of their guitars. That's it. Once they're gone, those are the guitars that they left behind. They'll be here long after we're gone.
Yes, that's what made me stay here.
Oh man,
that's what made me stay here because I knew that I could make a difference, and I knew that when I was gone, that I would live through with my guitars.
Yeah,
and that's what made me stay here. And so now I maybe that day will come, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm happy to be here with you after 20 some years of us, you know, knowing
student,
each other.
Mentor, friend.
Yes.
It's awesome, man. And like I said, I'm spoiled. I've had many great mentors in my life, people that just saw this weird looking half Jap, half Mexican white kid from Tucson playing mariachi music, and they're just like, well, that looks a little weird. Let's see if I can help him out a little bit.
Well, just to give you my interpretation, I saw a really tall, strong kid with very humble and very inquisitive and very that desire in your eyes you ask the right questions as a young man. You always did. You always wanted to search, the truth, and you're a tone chaser. And so
I was born with it. Like you, growing up in the music, I grew up with my mom's family, playing guitar, playing piano, singing rancheras. I didn't know the difference, you know what I mean? I was indoctrinated when I was a baby. It was just music. And so then, I can hear that. I can hear everything. And I get to my peril sometimes because I'll hear something and then we're in another section. I'm like, I don't think that's good, guys. Like, well, you're not a violin player. I'm like, I still have hearing.
You still hear that.
You still hear that shit. Come on, fix it up.
Yeah, and it's it's working out. Like I said, I have to value my time even more. So I'm getting more and more restoration work, and I'm getting a lot more focused orders, and I just have to turn away some of I'm not going to be able to wholesale, a lot of I'm not doing that anymore. My time is, like, I actually see the numbers. I have a vision of, I could be gone tomorrow and hey, I'm good.
But you can see if you live forever, you still only have a set number of items to build.
Oh yeah, because it's just, I saw it with my grandfather. He lived to be 87, and I saw how many hours a day he could put in and how many instruments he could build a year. And so, it's I'm looking forward to every day. I enjoy everything I do, but it's very focused. When you said you wanted to come meet, I was excited about it. I was like,
when you responded, I was like, yes! We're gonna do this. It's gonna be a great conversation.
Well, because that is where I live. I'm trying to, and I don't have to do it anymore. But the classical flamenco and the mariachi, people view that there's a high respect for all of that now. Yeah. And I have clients, I have friends, I have artists that are performing with my instruments that, in tone wise and craftsmanship and the machine heads and the finish and all those details are right there with some of the guitars that I make and some of the guitars that I restore. The approach is
consistency.
Well, there's a conscious, professional, high level approach to it. It's not. I'm not just slapping stuff together and building a classical guitar and calling it a mariachi guitar. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
My classical flamenco clients that come in here and they see my mariachi guitars, especially the ones with pegs, they think it's a flamenco and they pick it up and they're like, oh my gosh, this sounds good. And they're like, oh, I can't play this.
This is a little weird.
Like, Tomas, what did you do here? I'm like, it's not for you.
Yeah, it's not for you.
And they're like, what? I'm like, it's not for you. It's not for that style of music. Well, who buys these things? Mariachis. I'm like, what? They're spending this much money? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you some YouTube videos and you'll see what I'm talking about.
But it wasn't like that before.
No.
Well, even the well-known mariachis would be like, how much? I'm like, well, wait a minute. You have how many trajes, how many cars, you travel all over, you this, you that. Like,
this is a relatively new thing because violinists and trumpet players, they don't have this issue because all they have is the classical set, and those violins and trumpets are god-awful expensive. And this is a fairly new frontier that you're pioneering here with the mariachi guitar. Is, you know, the violin and trumpet had many, many, many years to evolve to be what it is.
Correct.
What it is, right? At highest levels, a violin, concert violin, is a concert violin. This, my God, nothing in here looks or sounds exactly the same, but they all have that high standard, and that is what we're trying to get at, you know, trying to pick apart. And that's why I love coming out here talking to you, because I mean you're leading that charge, right? And it's something that I think most people who view the podcast, musicians, people out there, like I said, there's going to be naysayers. Like, okay, fine, be a naysayer, enjoy your gigs and wherever it is and whatever bar you're playing at. But you know, we're here to expose the truth and see the realness, right? There's no fake in music. There's no fakeness in boxing. You're going to get your ass knocked out. There's no fakeness in jiu-jitsu. You're going to get choked out. There's no fakeness in health. You're going to die or you're going to live, right? There's no fakeness in what you're doing. You're going to produce the best sound, and it's going to be the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean?
yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm just doing the best I can. I listen to what you guys need, and whatever I can do to make that happen, I will do it. I'm honored to work for you guys, and I want to be that pit boss. I want to be the pit crew. I'm honored when you guys call me up, and whether you need it in a month or you need it in a day or whatever, and because you're on that race. You guys are out there sticking your necks out, you know, driving to gig, and you want something reliable, but you want something that represents you completely. And even if it is an inexpensive guitar and I have to fix it for you, I don't have a problem with it. If I can do it and we can meet somewhere where it works for everybody, I'm honored. So it's exciting. It's a good life.
It's a great life. You get to come in here every day. Just see my office. I like the people I work with, but man.
Yeah. A little different here.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, Tomas,
Thank you again. I want to say a big thanks for taking the time. Salud, brother.
scripted shows, but then just seeing people just chill and I like this, man. It's just every register. Plays in tune. And even like my favorite thing is like when you have a good singer, solid bass player, and all you're doing is.
The bass is you start the bass, and when you're hitting the treble, I'm getting the treble, and the bass is still there.
Yeah, there's sustain.
And there's balance and separation and everything.
For bolero music, I mean, I use this crazy pick, right? But even that, it's like.
I'm telling you, when you turn 50, 60, 70, and your left hand starts to tighten up, and your back starts to hurt a little bit, you're going to want to pick up a guitar that weighs 2 pounds.
Yeah, this is I've given this to people, I'm like, check this out. And they're just like, whoa, what is this, dude? It's like, is this even going to make any noise? I'm just like, yeah.
Well, people wonder why. There's a lot of people wondering why I have this here.
Is that a CD player?
Yeah, right?
Oh, no, that's a scale.
It's a scale. And it's here for a reason. It's here for a reason because when I test my guitars and I study old guitars, I put them. I not only I copy not only all the engineering on it, but it's got to match the weight. Remember I told you 2 pounds, 12 ounces.
Look at that right there. And you're holding on to it.
Yeah, it might be able to. It's right around 2 pounds, 12 ounces.
Nice.
And in some of the historical guitars that I have, the Rodriguez, the Santos Hernandez, some of the Ramirez. The Ramirez tend to be a little heavier.
Yeah.
And so
a little bit of a denser wood, a little more mass, a little more build for support, right? Because you have to account for the area and the volume of the guitar, right? Because you don't want it to collapse on itself, but you don't want it to be so overly built that it restricts the sound. It's like choking a singer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but on the flip side of it is, and when you get something like this, I can just imagine you 60 years old playing this thing, and
I better be able to make it that far.
You will. You will. You'll be playing. You're amazing already. You're just gonna get that much better.
I have a lot of practice to do. I've had so many other distractions to just. I want to play more classical. And this hand is just not have enough hours yet.
Yeah.
Novice at best. This guitar loves being back in LA. Just opening up. It doesn't play for me like this in Arizona.
It's like the when I built it, because I love Arizona, but I don't like 120 degree weather.
And I live in Phoenix, and that's exactly what happens to
I
me.
like the cold weather.
Yeah. And you can't tell me that doesn't sound flamenco enough, right?
It but the situation is that the sound is there, but then you go to play,
Playability.
and it's not the flamenco.
Yeah, it's not.
And I'm not saying the sound isn't there, but this guitar is so far. It's 100% mariachi.
Yeah.
And so
It's so easy for me to do. Like, it's not even a thought. Like, before I can think, do it, it's already done.
yeah.
But for me to do, I have to think, okay, hold it, right? That, I mean, that I don't even know what to say about that.
Well, and this is engineered just for flamenco, and so when a flamenco goes to play this, he's going to feel the character of tension, and he's going to feel the angles and the height and all of those things, and it's going to lend itself to the golpe, to the tap. Mm-hmm. It's going to lend itself to all of those things. Where the mariachi is not doing this, the mariachi is doing this, and the classical is now a different gig.
Yeah, you're playing your arpeggio.
So it's a different situation. So the beauty for me is when I see somebody come in and I look at the curiosity is when somebody comes in as big as you are and you have such a delicate touch when you need to.
Yeah.
Or when you have somebody that's very frail or thin and they have such a heavy
Strong
hand.
hand, yeah. They start to cut away here, and it's like, ooh, we need some training.
When I tell people it's like boxing, I think the best boxers have 3 speeds.
Mm.
They can just be slow
Head movement,
and then drop a bomb on you.
swing.
They can go
Power.
middle and just spar with you, or they can go fast and they're gonna take you out.
Light you up.
Like Sugar Ray
They
Leonard
light you
come
up.
in and just, you know.
It's like before I could defend shots to my ribs, he's already starting to hit my head. I'm just like, oh
And
shit.
then you cover your head, just hit you one in the body, and you're bombarded with all this. And when you're playing, to have those 3 speeds, and it's in life too. It's the same thing in life.
Learning that one.
You have those 3 speeds. No one slow it down.
Okay, the house isn't in the way I want it. It's fine. Okay.
Let's
We
take it
need
easy.
to go. We have stuff to do, and okay, so this needs to be fixed right now. Let me handle it right.
Yeah, or mid-range, like, yeah, let's go, let's have a good time, let's go dance. Or then number 3 is like, yeah, there's a fire. This place is on fire. Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Let's get it
Let's
done.
get it done.
And so you're covering everything. You have your classicals, you have your flamenca, and you have your mariachi. When your friends come over, they're like, it's like you bringing a Pappy, a Winkle, a Jack Daniels, an Oban.
Yeah, we're gonna get you guys there.
Right? And
You're
the
there.
thing is people don't truly know until they try it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, you're investing here. And when people say, well, how do you do this? Well, I've had a Friedrich, I've had Fletas, I've had this, I've had these guitars, I've worked on these guitars. Now, how can I try to pass that on?
Express yourself.
Yeah.
We've talked about this on the podcast too. Is like my friend Adrian, he's world class. Well, he doesn't consider himself. I consider him a world class harp player. He is one of the best harp players in the country. And we were talking about this, where you can take what someone teaches you, and you can emulate it. And if that's as far as you go, okay, fine, you can emulate it. But truly gaining a full understanding of what someone taught you, then emulating it, and then making it yours, and then implementing your partition of what that is. Keeping the tradition, right? The tradition is the part. You have to take tradition. And look at your guitars. I mean, you build them in the same style that the classical Torres style is. And that's it. They figured it out, 270 years ago? Mm-hmm. They figured it out. That's what a classical guitar is. It is the symphony in a box. That's what it is. Flutes.
Trumpets.
You know, it's there, and then you're pushing just that much further. And I'm just like, well, okay, I go to LA and I'll find what I need. I don't have to go across the world to Spain to find what I need. I'm good here. You know, it's American made.
That's a blessing. Thank you. And I remember Adam de Monte saying, you know, no insult, Tomas, but I can't believe I'm playing and buying flamenco guitars from a Mexicano here in Boyle Heights.
In the USA.
In the USA. He's like,